if you don't mind, I'm going to call you up 3 at a time, okay? And we're calling you on the in the order that you handed it in. Is that right? Okay. So the chair calls Heidi Thiess, City Council, League City. Jeffrey Patterson, Executive Director, Texas Catholic Conference of Bishops, and Marlene Chavez, co-founder of, I'll let her tell what that's all about. Okay, are you Heidi?
I am.
Okay, and does that go on the bottom?
Marlene Chavez, co-founder of Fuerza del Valle.
Okay, good. And where's Jeffrey Patterson? Jeffrey Patterson? Is he here? Jeffrey, we'll put your card up here if you happen to come back in. And chair calls Brenda Huerta from McAllen. Brenda, are you here? Huh? Oh, there she comes. Good. All right. Where are you going, Heidi?
Nowhere.
Okay. Identify yourself for the record, and you can start off. You have 3 minutes.
I'd like to speak on a couple of different charges. So is it 3 minutes per charge, or is it?
No. 3 minutes for both of them.
Okay,
Sorry.
my name is Heidi Thiess, and I am here representing myself. I'm also a Texas Border volunteer, former U.S. Army officer, and a firearms dealer, and also a city councilwoman at League City. I'd like to speak on charge 3, but before I do, I wanted to address something that I heard Senator Schwartner say. And he's not here.
You got a handout. You can give it to this fella right here.
Okay, I will. Yeah. If you can. He said it at some point when he was talking about traffic regulation checkpoints. He said that any law-abiding citizen shouldn't worry about checkpoints. And I know that Colonel McGraw was saying that he was getting pushback. The pushback on that point is the unconstitutionality of suspicionless searches at checkpoints. We're talking about the Fourth Amendment. So Senator Schwartner would probably do well to reacquaint himself with the Fourth Amendment, because the minute that we start giving up our constitutional Bill of Rights so that you can apprehend 530 more citizens that are late on their driver's license renewals or other traffic violations, that was not the purpose of the border security discussion. But the Fourth Amendment is where we need to stay focused.
Point well taken.
Thank you. All right, I just handed some handouts, and one of them has to do with a list of resources, and some of these resources came directly from Commissioner Todd Staples, and I wanted to share them with you because back in 2011, he commissioned through the Department of Ag the Strategic Military Assessment and on Texas border security. This is a very different approach, and it was very informative to read the Strategic Military Assessment. Have any of the senators had an opportunity to avail themselves of reading that? You have, sir? Okay, thank you. That, I think, is very crucial to acquainting yourself with the actual war zone that has encroached about 100 miles inside of the border. There are some other resources there, but more than that, it contains testimony from our own Texans who are living in a war zone, having to stay armed all the time. Their lives, their livelihoods, and their properties are at risk, under threat, and those are the Texans that need your support when it comes to border security. To continue to look to federal resources is not going to solve the problem. Texans need to take care of Texans. It's our Texans' lives, it's their properties and livelihoods that are at stake. So in that, one of the attachments that I gave to you was their individual testimony. And you can see the words constantly. You'll see the word terrorism. You'll see the word threat. You'll see the word fear. You'll see the words...
3 minutes is short, isn't it? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I didn't even get to the Second Amendment issue.
Let me just explain to you on that. You can fill out another card and do public testimony, because I didn't really make it clear at first. We're going to do charge 5 after all the public testimony on these other 2 charges.
Okay.
So you get a second
I'll get a second shot. Okay, well, that was...
Wrap it up for me.
All right. This will
be part of the record, by the way.
Okay, very good.
Handout, yeah.
The individual testimony of the Texans that are living like this, I have become a Texas border volunteer. And I encourage you, for those of you who've not actually had a chance to sit out there in the middle of the night, to actually see the traffic for yourself and to realize that these are not just people coming here for work. Right now, you've got about 63% that are OTMs, and many of them are armed and they are in uniform. I have personally seen for myself military movements in groups that are in uniform. This, to me, is an invasion not just of our state sovereignty, but of our national sovereignty. The security of our people that are living within a 100-mile border range of the border are truly living in a war zone. This is an issue that will not be solved with discussions on policy concerning illegal immigration. This is a law enforcement and military issue and must be addressed as such, and the other policy questions and concerns need to be left for other discussions.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. You get extra time if senators ask you questions.
I'm from South Texas, Rio Grande Valley, born and raised there. And I served in the United States Marine Corps, Vietnam, veteran.
Yes, thank you for your service.
Thank you. And the problems you describe with our ranchers and farmers are very real, in terms of the locks being broken, in terms of the fences being torn down, many of their farm homes out there being burglarized. So it's a serious problem. But the other problem is, other than Mexicans,
Correct.
In trying to separate, and maybe you can't, separate the real issue in terms of immigration and then compare that to the problems of the cartels, because the cartels are coming through and bring people who are in different type of uniform because they're carrying drugs in the back. Now, how do you try to distinguish, because people paint with the same broad brush, and they say, well, all illegal Mexican or illegal Mexicans, they're all here illegally, and they're all here just to try to rob and steal, when many of them are actually here looking for work. But how do we focus and try to identify those who pose a threat to our country that are not from Mexico, they're not from El Salvador, Nicaragua? We have a lot of people from Pakistan and Eastern Middle countries. So.
They are being identified. Border Patrol keeps track of those statistics, and they know who the OTMs are. That's why they see the numbers growing larger and larger. Just this year, for 2014 alone, they've already seen us on track for over 70% OTMs. We're ranging at about 73% right now, just since the beginning of the year. Just to give you an idea of the depth and breadth of this issue, if you are in most of that land is privately owned, but they have distress signals so that anyone who runs out of water, finds themselves needing to call, they can press a button, there's water there, there's a blue light that flashes, and Border Patrol can come out and collect them. The signs for those distress signals are printed in 3 languages. I know you can guess the first 2. Can you guess the third? It's Mandarin Chinese. That's the extent of the OTM traffic through not just our, there you go, that's a picture of the sign right there. You have it in English, in Spanish, and Mandarin. That's an extent of the OTM traffic that's coming through. Doc Vickers will also probably give testimony of other items found, and this is a border, not a border county. This is one border in. This is Brooks County near Falfurrias and the checkpoint there. All of that illegal traffic flows through private property, and it's our ranchers and our farmers then that are bearing the brunt of what is quite literally, I think, an international incident of an invasion, because many of these are in military uniform and moving in military formation.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I really want to take strong exception to your use of invasion and war zone. You know, I grew up in the lower Rio Grande Valley. I spent, you know, most of my life there. I've been up in El Paso for 30 years. When you say that there's a war zone and an invasion taking place, you're using military terminology.
Yes, I am.
And I would suspect that that there would be many people, including in law enforcement. I certainly know that for a fact with my law enforcement community up in El Paso, that would take strong exception to your use of those terms. The problem I have with this kind of information that you handed out to us, that Commissioner Staples also testified about
Correct.
A while back and used the terminology war zone,
Yes.
is that this is anecdotal evidence. I would like for you all to supply this committee, the Texas legislature, with data, with facts, with numbers.
Sir, I
Okay,
did.
so that we can get the scope of the problem more accurately assessed by us in determining what policies we implement. But look, we just heard from the director. We know that there's issues along the border. We've got strong assets on the border, federal, state, and local. You just heard the general testify. And I would suspect that even though there's issues and we're grappling with them, that there would be many people that would say, war zone? Invasion? Where does that come from? You know, El Paso has for some time, are you aware that El Paso, for the city of its size, is the safest city in the country for 3 or 4 years in a row? Are you aware of that? I'm asking you.
No.
Well, it is. It is. And so when you say that places along the border like El Paso are in a war zone, those of us who live there say, what is she talking about?
Well,
What it does, let me tell you, with all indulgence, Mr. Chairman, what it does when we carelessly throw around that kind of incendiary language is that border communities suffer the consequences of having an image presented to the rest of the country that we are unsafe.
We
and
are
that somehow,
unsafe.
well, I beg to differ with you.
Okay.
I live on the border. Do you live on the border?
No, I don't.
Well, I live on the border. I grew up on the border. I was a prosecutor. I was a county attorney, prosecuted juvenile crime, including the kids that were bringing the drugs over from the cartel. And so I know what the border is like. The chambers of commerce along the border, the business people would have strong objections to your comments because of what that does to border trade, to border commerce, to the image of the border, to the ability to attract industry to our border communities. And so it seems to me that you ought to be careful, in my view, as to the kind of terminology that you use here. I think Senator Hinojosa stated it correctly. There are issues. We're dealing with them. We've heard the testimony. But to go around saying that we're in a war zone, that we're in an invasion, is just doing a disservice to the people of this state. And I, for one, would not be supportive of your recommendations based on just that alone.
All right, thank you,
Okay.
Senator.
May I respond, sir, to his comments?
No, I think time's up. Let me just make a comment. Everybody is welcome to their views and to use their terminology, and every senator is welcome to disagree with you. And we're going to agree to disagree, but I want to tell everybody out there that you're welcome to use terminology that you feel fits the situation as long as it is not rude and it is not obscene, okay? Is that all right, Senator?
Yes,
Senator?
And
Chairman, I think you're correct about that.
We want the back and forth. That's what we do, okay? Thank you for your testimony.
May I respond since he asked me
Very
some
quick.
specific questions? Okay. I did not use that terminology carelessly, and we can agree to disagree on this, but that terminology was used quite deliberately. The reason is because I want to shed light, because the word is not getting out about what we're seeing on the border with OTMs, military units. Military incursions are happening on an almost regular basis everywhere along the border, not just in our state.
Heidi,
These are military units. The terminology that you are upset with me for using is something that I used quite deliberately and for a reason, and it's to raise awareness. I'm sorry if it offended you, but it is fact.
Okay, Heidi.
Yes, sir.
Gonna leave it there?
Yes, sir.
He has offered for you to bring him non-anecdotal evidence.
Yes, sir, and
you're
I
going to do
did.
that, aren't you?
I did. No, actually, sir, in this list that you got, because this is an 182-page report, it is the Texas Border Security, a strategic military assessment is what I am referencing. That is why I've used that terminology. It is actually fact, and it is backed up with the facts, and you have the report there. I couldn't print 182 pages for all of you,
That's fine.
and
We
so
got
I left
staff
the
that can
link
do
for
that.
you.
All right, thank you.
It's this one, sir. This
We're
page. Did
moving
you
on.
get this
Heidi,
page?
Heidi, you're not recognized anymore. Thank you.
Okay, understood.
Okay. Thank you.